Alright. So we've done water and fire. We have 4 left, believe it or not, in ice, wind, earth, and thunder. And we're just going to jump right into ice now. And the ice boss is Fenrir. This is the 3rd Magicite boss if you proceed in clockwise order from the 12 o'clock. Here is a quick overview. We have 558,000 health. That's a lot. Yeah. Definitely looks like they don't want you using mages here. That 10,000 defense versus 16,000 resistance is definitely sizable. However, Adia doesn't really care. She's going to do a whole ton of damage anyway. But on the whole, ice mages are going to be less effective here than physicals. Oh no, that's fine, Beefcake. You didn't distract. I was taking a break because I was eating some dinner, so I could continue on without fainting. So we have ice vulnerability, and everything else is either resistance or worse. So definitely ice and nothing but ice here. Unless your name is Strago, that's different. Yeah, because he's only resistant to water, which means Strago can do whatever he wants. Let's see, we got physical single target, nat single target, nat self blink 1. That's interesting. I'd heard of that. This is to discourage you from using stuff like that's weighted into one attack because it may just completely fizzle on you. He can just self blink himself sometimes. It's kind of funny. Mad Millennial Decay, nat AoE, 490% piercing. 15% chance to slow. That sounds annoying. Ugh. Mad Howling Moon, another self-blink. Increase attack by 30% for 25 seconds and haste. That's interesting. I wonder if that's cancelled by using a power breakdown. It'd be weird and cool that power breakdown would actually be useful on a Magicite boss for your ability to get rid of his attack buff. And hastes him. Okay. I gave like a 2-minute delay. Fenrir is the squishiest of all the Magicite bosses, and also the one with the easiest attack pattern, as long as you have a life siphonable Wrathable Magic Blink. There are a few of those. Rosa has 2 of them. And there's quite a few life siphonable ones available as well. All of his attacks are either single target physical, though not all PHY type, which is a big difference there, or a Millennial Decay, which can be and should be, if at all possible, blinked. Yeah, that's what I figured. That seems like disgusting, and if we can, if it actually occurs in an attack pattern, stuff like Furion and Rosa's USB here, any instant cast Magic Blink is going to be very, very powerful here if this occurs in a pattern. That said, he presents his own challenges, not least of which is that his elemental weakness is pretty hard to come by. Fenrir is resistant to all elements except for ice, which he carries a partial weakness to. As such, the focus of the guide is going to be on sources of ice damage. We have Chain Blizzaga. 2 hits magical ice. Magic is slightly advantaged in this fight, so it's slightly advantaged. Oh, yeah, right, because even though he has a high resistance, he has physical blink that he could be used at any time. So actually, magic is in a good position in this fight. So it's a little better than in most of the others, but it's not anything exciting. Valley Garmanda, 3 hits of magical fire, ice, and thunder damage. Unfortunately, this is just too hard to hone to have much of an impact for the fight at the present. Snow Spell Strike, 2 hits of strong, very strong physical ice wind damage. This is the best physical ice ability in the game, but it's somewhat difficult to hone as well as being physical. But this would be a good fight for a Celeste BSB2, so that's something to consider. Does he have any BLK attacks? He does not, so it would have to survive on its hones alone, and not on the Grand Crossover BSB2. Next we have Ice... Are you serious? Ice Jump, Dragoon 3, 1 hit of physical ice damage after a delay, only included for completeless stake. Although I suppose if you're very good, you may be able to dodge Millennial Decays with this. Okay, fair enough. Hailstorm, Samurai 5, 2 hits of physical ice damage, and increase own attack by 30% while reducing resistance by 30%. I'm assuming that Global will get this ability at some point. We did, finally. If for no other reason, then we will get Ayame and her RM4, which casts Hailstorm on attack. It's very good for this fight since the only magical attack ignores resistance anyway, plus it's a self boost. Hailstorm is going to be an excellent ability for the fight, definitely. Icicle Shot. It's one of the new sharpshooter abilities. 2 hits of ranged physical ice damage, dealing more damage if a ranged weapon is equipped. This would be better than a theoretical 5-star 2-hit Ice Spell Blade if such a thing existed. Well, it does exist, but it's AoE, so it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's still a very good option for the fight if you're relying on abilities rather than soul breaks to any degree. And great example right here is people like Furion can bring his instant magic Blink Burst Soul Break and Hailstorm as well as Icicle Shot because he's a shooter 5. He's one of the original shooter 5s. Next, we have Sudden Freeze, which is going to be an important ability to those with Adia's Burst Soul Break. 2 hits of weak magical ice and self-quick cast 1. This primarily exists to justify the existence of the next ability, although it should be noted, and personally I feel like this is more important. It's a very good way for mages to build up Soul Break bar against ice-weak enemies, which Fenrir is. So what this allows you to do with Adia is to give yourself damage increasing record materia and build up your first bar to start out your burst cycles with this ability rather than sacrificing Mako Might on her or entrusting her or whatever. So you could high hone that 4-star, easily honed ability and just kind of go nuts with that at the beginning of the fight before perhaps using Memento Mori to increase her magic further, which is pretty important because Adia is has a high requirement for her 6 hits on her first command with her burst. So that means increasing her magic is very important, especially in a fight with 0 record synergy to speak of. So it's harder to get those stat boosts. And her ability to self-buff is large as she can is very powerful. And Abyssal Shards is the 5-star Ice Witch ability. 6 hits of very weak magical ice damage with a long cast time. If you're able to cap Chain Blizzaga, this is probably will deal more damage. If you can't, Chain Blizzaga will be better. Again, same gripe I have with both of the Witch 5-star abilities is not only do you need to cap Chain Blizzaga, but even then it may not even do as much damage as Chain Blizzaga does. It is pretty much exclusively for building Chain Soul Breaks. And even then, it's just a worse version of Chain Blizzaga. Is that worse, the 4% per cast? Possibly not. It's just such a niche ability that I believe, or in my opinion, that the Witch 5-stars are only valuable if you have either Shantoto or Adia's USBs, which are absolutely the only things in the game that I know of that are specifically made to work with Witch abilities. So now we move on to Soul Breaks. And I think looks like we're going to divide them into Attach and Imperil and whatever else. Start out with Umaro. That's weird. We move right up to Final Fantasy VI. And Umaro's BSB is a little strange and crazy, but potentially very good. I agree. It has an AoE ice damage entry. Command 2 is a 3 single target ice non-elemental hits and a hailstorm effect. Which is good. He's physical character, being the Abominable Snowman and all. While Command 1 is what makes this really interesting. It's a single target ally 40% max HP heal, and it grants Power Chain 1 to the ally. That's, as far as I know, the only ability in the game where you can just target Power Chain somebody. That is, Power Chain is the Instacast status. Targetable Power Chain on a burst command has a ton of potential, and being attached to a heal is also very nice. This isn't all that hot for damage, but it's got some real potential for helping others with their soul breaks. I think honestly not that big on this burst. However, it does work with one burst in particular. Well, a couple bursts, but one burst in particular that shows up on this list for this fight, and that's Squall's Burst Soul Break. The ability to just hand him a power chain every turn allows you to get your iteration on his second command up really quickly, so you can do some really crazy damage with it. It's a kind of a weird combo to make light of, being Umaro's BSB is Final Fantasy VI, while Squall's is Final Fantasy VIII. It's hard to put it together, but if you are, you could make a cool video, I guess, and do a lot of damage. You'd probably be well on your way to a 30-second clear. So next on the list, we just have a Soul Break, which is Squall's Mystic Flurry. Only included for completeness because this was on the selection banner. If you do have this, it makes Squall's OSB more attractive for defeating Fenrir, but not good by itself. We're going to find out when Squall's OSB appears, but OSBs are disadvantaged in this fight for a very big reason. Next up, we have the aforementioned Squall BSB. This was, until recently, the single best DPS soul break in the game, and it is still the top Ice Burst soul break. Combined with Squall's Legend Dive and a double cast Spellblade record materia, you can power out several 7 times 10,000 damage attacks in a row after a little setup. It doesn't take very long to defeat Fenrir if you get some lucky double or triple casts on the Command 2 of this puppy. Agreed, and especially if you're running Umaro as a instacast bot. Next we have Angel Wing Ice Tomb, which Renoa's BSB 2. Renoa's BSB 2 is a bit maligned, but in actuality it's great for this fight. It's a self-buff command, unfortunately deals no damage, and a very strong 4-hit command 1 if you can get her magic up to 1200 after all buffs. Difficult, but as we've shown with Adia, it is possible. Though easier for her than it is for Renoa, because Renoa does not have access to Memento Mori. At 650 magic, easily reachable even without synergy, it deals the same damage as a standard mage and element BSB, but again, remember, she has a self-buff command. This self-buff command does give her 30%, I do believe. I'm going to check it out. Renoa, where are you? Magic plus 30% to the user for 20 seconds. Note that this is not a unique status like Adia's Stitch in Time. This is a flat or a naked magic plus 30%. So if you're running a Faithka like Sheepsong or Ley Lines, it will not stack with this. Next up, we have Adia's Maelstrom. Here's the premier Ice Mage BSB. It's why I mentioned it at the beginning of the guide. Adia has the most stringent magic requirements of all Maria-style BSBs, but 1205 magic is reachable with some effort. Remember, Adia can double self-buff with her Command 2 and Memento Mori. Assuming you have one other stacking party magic buff, for instance, Onion Knight's BSB, you only need 480 magic on the character to reach 6 hits. Once you're there, Adia can probably defeat Fenrir on her own. Truth. This is probably the strongest burst available to you in this fight. Strongest soul break available to you in this fight. Lulu Super Soul Break. This is just area of effect ice damage and attach ice. The only real benefit of this is that the relic has all realms bonus ice damage, though only Lulu herself can actually make use of it. Abaddon Blizzaja. This is much better version of Icy Smile, except that the doll doesn't have always-on bonus ice damage. In addition to being single target instead of AoE damage, this gives Lulu a stacking magic resistance buff and power chain 2. And those are selfish, they are only for her. If you're using an entrust strategy, or you're using a well-honed Sudden Freeze to build up 2 bars of gauge, you can use Abaddon Blizzaja into Lulu's BSB and start wrecking face. Otherwise, you're probably better off sticking with Renoa or Dia, both of whom can also take advantage of witch spells. Yeah, truth. Lulu would require a lot of work, but this is the only fight in which Lulu could actually be on the higher tiers of damage output. Meikyo Shusui Setsugetsuka. This is coming to global, but it'll be a while. Hopefully, this does come to global within the next month in Extreme Festival. Anyway, before Squall BSB 2, this was the top Ice BSB by a mile, and it's still very good, in part because it has too many positive effects. I've gone over this many times on my event previews when looking at banners and talking about burst soul breaks and how a soul breaks allowance can be exceeded and by some soul breaks, and this is one of them. Most attach element BSBs either deal damage plus the attach, or they have a buff plus the attach. Not so with Ayame. She deals damage, attaches ice, and buffs her own attack and resistance by 30%, so she gets an added effect for free. Add in the Dark Bargain Command 2 and the Ninja Cast Speed Command 1, and you have an extremely powerful, completely self-sufficient physical ice user. I actually like Ayame's BSB more than I do Squall's. I know that's a little weird, but I don't like things that require certain conditions to be met. It interferes a little bit in Squall's ability to take advantage of his drawing junction. It needs a lot of help, while Ayame's is completely self-sufficient. And after you get the iteration on Squall's rolling, especially on a fight like this, where the boss has 2 forms of physical blink, those strong attacks can be blinked, as well as his drawing junction iterative attacks can also be blinked, meaning that they don't add the iterative command to his command 2. Ayame's BSB is very simple, and as soon as you use it, it's already working at full potential, and that's what I like about it. I like how it is simple and will always work for the duration of the burst. Next up, we have Sarah's BSB. This is the original Attach Ice Mage BSB. I'm not sure a lot of people remember using it to kill Moda Frit, or with or without a CM team. I don't, because I killed it with Renoa's BSB. Yeah. A lot of power creep has happened since then, however, and Sarah is sadly left holding a relatively outdated BSB. It's still a mage attached BSB, and physical characters are slightly disadvantaged against Fenrir because of the physical blinks. It's really painful to lose an OSB or a Squall Command 2 to blink. So she's still usable, but you should probably be on the lookout for something better if this is all you have. Next up, we have Enochian Blizzaja. Papalimo Super Soul Break. This is just Icy Smile, but with random target instead of AoE, and without access to witch spells or Ice Element BSB to back it up. Pass. Agreed. And how I outlined Lan's Burst Soul Break on the previous fight, Channel Element Ice for Rain is quietly a pretty good BSB here. It deals higher than standard damage against Ice-weak enemies, including Fenrir. And if you're desperate, it includes damage plus a self-heal command. It's not the ideal choice, and I won't be recommending the World Final Fantasy banner for a pull, but it's nice to pick up. Nice if you pick it up incidentally. And most importantly, the thrower that it is attached to is plus ice damage in all realms, which I know a certain little witch up here would be very happy to use anywhere she can get it. Next up, we have the 2 Imperil Ice Soul Breaks, one of which is currently available in Global, and the second of which will be available in Global very soon. We have Freezing Barrage for Laguna. It's area of effect Imperil Ice. Normally, I disparage a mere Super Soul Break, but, well, there's only 2 Imperil Ice sources in the entire game at the time of this writing, so you take what you can get. This is the worst of the two, but beggars can't be choosers. Agreed. I mean, like we've mentioned on the previous banners, Imperil is actually really powerful, and an Imperil on a Life Siphon user is actually quite good. And I'm going to check something. I believe because Laguna can use guns, I mean, this is almost a foregone conclusion, but I believe since a Laguna can use guns, it also means he can use the 5-star sharpshooter ability, which allows him to use, 2 hits of ice damage, and in addition to his Imperil Ice, so is actually a viable option here. And for on USB, area effect damage, Imperil Ice, and Party Quick Cast 2, very good. This is a universal quick cast, not just for magic. So this is a similar status that is granted by Chain Soul Breaks. It's way better than Laguna's Super Soul Break, and while a lot of people express disapproval when this is first out of mind, it doubles the number of Ice Imperils, which is valuable. I express disapproval. I don't think it's great by itself. I think it is great for this fight, though, and that is kind of important since, I mean, this is the pinnacle of dealing ice damage, you know, and this is where you would use this USB anyway. Plus, Fran, like Laguna, has access to Sharpshooter 5, so she can use this as well as Icicle Shot and be a fairly competent damage dealer. The Quick Cast 2 to Party is pretty beneficial as well, especially for speed clearing. Laguna USB is also Imperilize. I know that comes out a little later, but we can go check. Ragnarok Buster. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's 7 group range attacks. Is that even ice? It is ice, non-elemental. Attack and resistance to the user, grants Ragnarok Buster and High Quick Cast. This probably turns Laguna into a machine gun machinist. After using a high ice attack, yeah. So actually not even a machinist, he becomes a sharpshooter. Because you'd want to use this in conjunction with Icicle Shot. A great soul break for this fight, absolutely, but not in peril. So that's the Imperils. I can check the list to see if any more were released in the time. Nope, still just 2. Fran and Laguna. Next up, Ice OSBs. Sub-Zero Blast, Squall's OSB. This is one of the few attach ice capable OSBs, which makes it valuable. It is entirely possible to beat Fenrir with physical OSB spamming, but watch out for Howling Moon giving him a physical blink. You want to do your best to time some other physical attack to land just before the physical OSB to clear blink. A little bit of micromanagement, but usable if you need to. Alright, see you tomorrow, Don. Good luck at the doctor. And next we have one of my Dark Horse love children, the Sword Magic appearance. That's totally just English. Steiner OSB. Steiner can't attach ice, but on the upside, his OSB is Tri-Element and deals bonus damage against enemies weak to any of the elements. Definitely a contender with the same watch out for blink proviso. And Tashi Fudo. This is the best of the 3 Ice Elemental OSBs because Ayame has an attached Ice BSB on the same banner even. And because it deals bonus ice damage versus weakness. It's not quite as strong as Steiner's, but the attached ice bonus more than makes up for it. Of course, if you don't pull our BSB, it's still perfectly usable. As with the other OSBs out there, watch for blink because it really sucks to lose 60k plus damage. Agreed. I would probably stay away from relying on OSBs in this fight because of the physical blinks, but it is a mechanic you can work around because of your ability to time a physical attack to land directly before the OSB to make sure it clears it, if one goes up. Other notable ice soul breaks. Note, this category includes only the soul breaks I consider relevant. This means it excludes basic soul breaks, which aren't already included above, and most super soul breaks, which don't provide some exceptional benefit in addition to ice damage. If you believe I have excluded a soul break in error, please let me know in the comments. First up, we have Matoya's Inarai. Matoya's BSB is excellent for coverage, but with no attached element or repair available to her. She is strictly here as a +1 rather than a primary focus to your team. Nice to have, but not something to specifically pull for. Try Disaster. Palom's BSB. Palom has essentially an improved version of Matoya's BSB. His commands deal a little less damage, but they give you magic only power chain 1 if they hit a weakness, so he deals much higher DPS than she does. You're still not going to use him as a primary since he lacks a stacking magic command or any elemental damage bonuses, but the banner on its own is actually quite good, so it's happy incidental pull. I didn't agree with the quite good grade on the banner that it appeared on, but people that have been able to pull it, I would suggest that this is a fairly good burst soul break to be using in this fight. Next up, we have Triumphant Blade, Celeste BSB 2. This is Celeste's answer to Ayame's BSB. Like Ayame, Celeste gets to cheat with an extra effect on her entry. So she gets damage, self-attack, and defense, plus 35%, and Grand Crush. She gets an extra effect for free. And she gets a Dark Bargain Command 1 and a plus 15% Spellblade damage buff on her Command. Command 2 on Dark Bargain, Command 1 for the Spellblade damage buff. This is an excellent burst soul break on an excellent character. The only real problem here is that Fenrir uses no black or white skills, so the Grand Cross effect is wasted. That's all that keeps this from ranking among the best BSBs for the fight. Agreed, it is still very good here. And excellent outside of the fight, but it does waste one of the free effects that it the free effect that it gets on the entry. So it's above average to great instead of one of the best here. Next up, we have Squall's BSB 2, Brutal Shell. In addition to damage, this gives Squall Thunder God mode for 2 turns and gives him a extra follow-up attack every second Spellblade school attack he uses. Unfortunately, the follow-up is AoE damage, which means reduced multiplier, and being only used after every second ability really cuts into its power. You're better off with his BSB2 or OSB. Yeah, this is the Ishtola USB for physical characters. It's really pretty bad. It's something, but not something you're going to find a reason to entrust him for instance. You're most likely just going to want to BSB with them if you've got it. BSB 2, rather. Sorcerer's Awakening, Renoa's first BSB. Renoa's original BSB is just flat out worse than her BSB 2 for Fenrir. Do your best to find anything else to use. Totally agree, it stinks. And Shiva, Renoa's CSB. This is the Ice Chain, and it grants the standard party quick cast. Great, especially for Magicite fights. In addition to the chain effect, Ice is actually one of the easiest elements to chain between Squall's 7-24-21 hit command 2 barrages, Adia's 6-hit command, and the 6-hit witch skill, so this should be giving some serious consideration. Thankfully, the banner this is on is utterly amazing, so it's not something you have to choose whether to pull for or not. Next up, we have Anger's Magic, and here's one of the reasons why I secretly love that Final Fantasy IX banner. Because Vivi's BSB2 is similar to other soul breaks like, say, Fusions or Paloms, where you're not really locked into an element. All the damage boosts that it provides to itself are global increases. And what I mean by that is, I'll go into it right here. The only thing that's keeping me from saying this is just as good as an Attach Ice BSB is the Stitch in Time command is fire, non-elemental. That's fair, with no ice option, so it's only going to do negligible damage. This is still an absurdly strong coverage BSB, and likely the best of its type in the game. Yes, I would consider this a direct upgrade over Palom's. It grants a party magic and resistance buff on entry. Very good. It's the same entry buff that's on Rafa's, but that's okay, because I don't believe Vivi does lightning damage, so there's no overlap in their capabilities there. Where you at, Vivi? It does do lightning damage. Never mind. Forget I said that. There is a little bit of overlap, but however, it's still great for fire. Nice. This... Okay, has the mentioned Stitch in Time command, which has a tri-element 4-hit command 1. With its entry plus command 2, this is actually much stronger than Sarah's Aging BSB and at least as good as Renua's BSB 2 for command 1 damage. If you happen to pull this while going for fire soul breaks, rejoice. It's great for both fire and thunder coverage as well. I agree. I really do like this banner a lot. I like how they stayed on theme for Vivi and Steiner and gave them not just focused with their original BSBs for single elemental, which was both fire based, but it expanded them to all of Vivi's elements, which played together with Steiner's ability to pair up with Vivi for spellblading during the game. So I really like the banner. It's actually very strong. And this is on it. So next up, we have Triple Threat, Lulu's BSB. This is a coverage BSB, but it's actually a little better than that here, because Lulu has 2 different attached ice relics, the better of which is on a banner with her BSB, so she can actually pump out some real damage here if she can get some Soul Break gauge gifted to her. I agree. This is the one battle where Lulu can actually do something. However, she does need Entrust to get there. Just a single one of her Soul Breaks is not going to be enough. Next up, we have Shantoto's Super Soul Break. Talked about this in the last one, and same thing to say here. Oh, no, Super. Yeah, Reverse is next. That's what we talked about. Alright, this is a Tri-Element Super Soul Break, plus a Party Magic plus Resistance buff. It's a stacking buff with somewhat rare stats, so it's stacked with most other things, not including Vivi's BSB2 and Rafa's Burst Soul Break. But being just a Soul Break and with Shantoto having no Wrath or Life Siphon access, it's probably not something you're going to have the space to bring. Fenrir is at least the easiest Magicite boss to single heal, so you may have an extra slot to spare compared to some of the others. There is something to be said for Shantoto's ability to be a witch, which means she could potentially use the Super Soul Break with the 4-star witch ability and just chain out her witch abilities while maintaining the Super Soul Break. Not the greatest option, but it's something if you need it. Next up, we have Play Rough, Shantoto's Burst Soul Break. This is an attached Thunder Burst Soul Break, so it's a little out of its depth here, but at least it does have the Ice Elemental coverage if you're desperate. Ninja Speed Command 1 here is pretty nice too. Next up, we have Snow's Burst Soul Break. This is technically an Ice Burst Soul Break, but the real draw is the Party Last Stand buff. He does get a stacking attack buff command, and his command 1 deals extra damage as he gets hurt. You might consider bringing Gaia across or draw fire and letting Snow tank Fenrir's attack and bite to build gauge and increase his command 1 damage a bit. Last Stand is very good for this fight because Fenrir only has a single AoE ability and he can't spam it back to back until very late. So Snow useful, imagine that. Next up we have Snow's BSB2. Snow pretends he's Onion Knight with his BSB2, granting the Onion Knight BSB entry package, which is haste to the entire party, and a party attack and magic plus 30% buff. He differs from Onion Knight by having a 5-hit against weakness ice damage command 1, and a tank focus command 2. No instacast, but 305 potency is a very nice for physical attacks. If only he had an attached ice option. I agree. I like both of Snow's Burst Soul Breaks here. Which makes sense considering what his name is. Next up, we have Hero King for Delita. Quad element damage BSB, although one of the elements doesn't have a Magicite boss yet. Actually, it does. Delita's BSB is a little bit of a jack of all trades, but if you have party critical buff, you can put out a surprising amount of damage to its innate critical hit damage bonus. And as I went into on the previous boss, the fire boss, Delita's USB came out after this guide was written, and Delita's USB plus BSB allows him to heavily exploit and do a whole ton of damage to any of the 4 elements that he can exploit, which is Holy, Fire, Ice, and Lightning. So he is a better option than what is displayed here. Preparing for Fenrir. This is the list of banners, and I'm going to go and take a look at my banner list and see if there's any decent snow or sorry ice banners that appeared after the cutoff point, which would be the Final Fantasy VI Umaro event. So Umaro was September 21st. Next up would be Final Fantasy II. No. Tactics, yes. Tactics' second banner has the aforementioned delete a USB on it, which is a fairly decent banner. Just overshadowed a bit by the first banner of the event. Next up, we have Final Fantasy III, which doesn't have any ice going for it. Final Fantasy 15, which is lightning and dark. Final Fantasy 8, does that have ice? Yeah, that has Laguna's USB on the first banner. Let's see if there's anything else to make this a worthwhile banner worth taking a look at. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have Laguna's USB, Adia's BSB. They're both ice-based. Adia's BSB. Add on to that. Kyros does ice damage. Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, it's a buff. Single target ice damage plus a buff is actually a pretty good support thing for this party. This would be excellent because Kyros is a support 5, so you could use this for damage and then be in a trust bot, either for himself or for somebody else. Next up, Earth Wind, so you're relevant. Renoa's BSB2, very good. Laguna's Imperil Ice Legend Materia. Wow, this is probably second on the list. As far as like banner potential, probably the best strictly ice banner that we have available. But as far as like best banner with Magicite applications, then this is second place, and we'll get to the first place banner eventually. So Adia, Renoa, Renoa's LMR not great. Medium chance to self quick cast one when using ice elemental damage abilities, very good. So 2 good Legend Materia relics versus 1 not. Kyros, non-elemental, Ward, yeah, Adia, Dark. A pretty good ice banner all around, though. So what else do we got on the list? Final Fantasy VII, no. Final Fantasy IV, nope. So there you go. Alright, so we'll move on with the list. I'm going to quickly skim through the stuff that we've already had in Global, which is 2nd Anniversary, World of Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 8. Wait. Wow, that's a hell of a jump. So we've already had this event, but this one's in our fairly distant future. It's like 2 months away. But this is it? Selfie? No, fuck. This banner we've already passed. I was thinking of the wrong banner. Sorry. Ironwood Fists, this banner is coming. So this is in the future. We have Celeste BSB2 on this banner. Celeste is an incredible BSB2 debuts and only appears, at least for the moment, here. It's an excellent relic, but as you may have noticed, there are quite a few banners with one excellent ice relic, and then a good supporting cast. Here we have Realm's amazing USB, Realm's wannabe Onion BSB, and please don't take wannabe by as a derogatory thing to say about it. It's actually Onion BSB strictly for mage teams, so even better in a way. Celeste's original BSB, and Celeste's 25% chance to dual cast Spellblade Legend Materia Relic. I assure you there is an absolutely amazing ice banner coming up. This isn't it, but it may still be worth some thought. It is worth some thought to me. I will be pulling on this. Because I do like the supporting cast as well as me liking Celeste BSB2. Next up, we have my my darling banner, which is Small Spark, Great Resolve. The Steiner and VV banner. This is an amazing fire banner, one if not the absolute best on the horizon. Happily, it also doubles a bit as an ice banner, thanks to the tri-element and attach agnostic nature of Steiner's OSB and VV's BSB2. They're both better as fire relics since those characters have better attached fire options, but both will absolutely serve as ice relics as well. In addition to the Spotlight relics, Zidane's Odd Duck BSB2, Steiner's attached fire BSB, Imperil Fire Super Soul Break, and Imperil Fire enabling LMR are also here. Whew. Good fire banner. And actually does achieve some other things as well. So that's the draw of that one. Future Guided by the Brand 2. This is the second banner of the Final Fantasy XIII event that will be launching in about 18 hours. This isn't much of an ice banner. It's more of a Neil Fang Healer Wind double banner. Snow's BSB is still a great ice plus utility option, though. Yeah. But it's an okay banner. But probably, yeah, not what we're really looking for here. Victim of Conspiracy 2 has Franz USB on it. This is one of the very, very, very few chances to pick up an Imperial Ice for your Ice Party. Unfortunately, the surrounding relics aren't really that hot for Magicite purposes. Veins 2 are fairly forgettable hybrid Dark Damage Soul Breaks, his OSB and his BSB. Unfortunately, Vane is a forgettable character who was unable to duplicate the success of Vincent, mostly because they gave him an OSB instead of a USB. Fran's BSB is excellent, but not really at all what were useful against Magicite bosses. Lars's BSB is similarly disadvantaged. Half of the Magicite bosses don't use status ailments, aside from Imperil, which is unable to be status blinked. And of the three who do, two of them are very magic blinkable, and the third is single target only. On Franz, Super Soul Break 2 is Imperil Thunder, which has much better options and banners. So, again, do not suggest this banner. We are Albed 1. Remember I told you to hold your horses if you wanted Lulu's Attached Ice plus BSB combo? This is why. In addition to her superior Attached Ice Soul Break, you also gets Pain's Coverage Soul Break, Coverage Burst Soul Break, and Attached Water Super Soul Break. And Riku's Imperil Water Burst and extremely good utility USB. Still not the best ice banner, but it does provide a good mix of ice-water. Lulu works as a coverage for water too, thanks to her BSB and general utility. Yeah, it's fairly decent for that. It's just Riku or Lulu and Pain both kind of get lapped a couple times by other options. In most of the elements that they cover, Pain in every element. Well, Lulu in every element except for ice. Next up, we have Pure Love Guided by Shooting Stars. Squall USB, Squall BSB2, and Laguna Super Soul Break. Here's that banner I was told you better if you were looking for Squall's BSB2. His USB isn't really a prize at all, but this is the only chance in the foreseeable future to grab both the best Ice BSB and an Imperil Ice BSB at the same time. It also has a couple Dark / Fire in the USB's case, Relic from Seifer. Still not the best Ice banner, though. Next up, we have Pure Love Guarded by the Shooting Stars 2, the next Final Fantasy VIII event's second banner. It has Renoa's CSB, Renoa's BSB2, and Dia's BSB. This is the best Ice banner, not counting the Ice Thunder banner and the Superfest, which has unknown contents for Global's purposes. Hands down. All three of the Ice relics here are great. You get Fusion's Weakness Advantage OSB, Excellent BSB, and Attached Super Soul Break, all on the same banner, which is great because Golem is brutal for physical parties to kill. And also, Renoa's Attached Earth Super Soul Break, which is also plus Earth Armor, by the way, which is very important because that's fairly rare, and Dia's Imperil Dark Super Soul Break, just because the banner isn't great enough. Seriously, if you're worried about your ice, this event is the one you're waiting for. No surprise, since it's Final Fantasy VIII. You want to pull on either this banner or the first banner for this event, in all likelihood. They are pretty much very, very quick, Adia. It's all dependent on DNA and how fast they want to release the information, I believe. I've seen almost instantaneous as soon as maintenance start, and I've seen them take, until the end of maintenance, until the information gets released. All right, so this is the best banner. What make that Final Fantasy VIII banner I looked at on the side is probably a stronger, strictly ice-themed banner, and no doubt, and it's no surprise that it's also a Final Fantasy VIII banner. However, this is probably a stronger banner overall, just because it is has some great ice stuff on it, as well as being one of the one-stop shops for completely outfitting one of the most powerful wind and general purpose characters in the game in Fusion. So it's a dual element and overall better, while the other Final Fantasy VIII banner that comes out much later than this is better for ice specifically. Next up, we have the Shadow Lord Awakens. Ayame OSB, Ayame BSB, and Shantoto's Super Soul Break. I promised you Ayame's BSB would come, and this is where it debuts, in Global anyway, if it doesn't appear on her Extreme Fest. As a benefit, the banner also includes her Ice Elemental OSB, a couple of great non-elemental options. Those non-elemental options being Lion and her USB and her BSB, which, if you haven't heard, are extremely good. Just ask all of the Fusion and Von BSB users out there how good that dual break is on a high damage character. We have Prish's excellent pocket heal, and Shantoto's coverage buff Super Soul Break. Not as great as the Final Fantasy VIII banner, but still great. It is a good banner overall, too. I think Ayame and Lion being prominent on this banner really helps it out. Prish kind of soils it a bit, but she's not that bad and gets a little better once the 4-hit monk abilities get released, because she needs something other than Life Bane to trigger the gimmick on her Burst Soul Break. Next up, we have Searching for Friends, the Umaru BSB banner, or more fittingly, the Shadow USB and the Setsu USB banner. Final Fantasy VI's hidden characters make their appearance here, and they both have suitably odd soul breaks given their unusual abilities in Final Fantasy VI. Umaru's BSB would have been much better as Imperial Ice instead of Attach Ice, agreed, since he makes a better supporter than attacker because he can bestow that instant cast upon someone. Shadow's USB is a Dark Element instant cast clone of Edge's top-end Water USB, and he actually takes the best physical DPS thrown by hair thanks to his Legend Dive and Legend Material Relic being better, plus his Life Siphon access. Yep, you heard that right, and we're not going to get to that tonight because I'm not going to be doing the Dark fight, but Shadow does become the best physical DPS in the game, believe it or not. And he actually was at one point in the distant past as well, if everyone remembers when his Super Soul Break came out. So I guess it's not that unexpected. But like it says, that's for a future Magicite boss, along with his BSB. Setzler's excellent USB and BSB are also here, but as with all debuff-focused Soul Breaks, they're badly disadvantaged against Magicite bosses. Yep, this is a excellent fight. Just not really at all a nice banner. Doesn't really belong here because Umaru is a support character. You're probably going to get more mileage out of his instant cast bestowing command instead of actually dealing ice damage with him. Yes, just Ishigeki the Shadow Era. Yeah, no, it's like I'm gonna go look at it right now just to give people a little blast from the past. But, I mean, it contains a mechanic that is still relevant for properly assessing damage output these days, and that is the Shadow Fang. It has a 7.68, which was a high multiplier back in the day, and it still is, but it was instant cast. And it granted 8 single attacks and grants Physical Blink to the user. The Physical Blink 2 was just an added bonus. That gave him survivability on top of just being able to Life Siphon over and over again and use this instant cast 7.68 damaging ability. It was just disgusting. It did so much damage back in the day, and a lot of people didn't understand that because Shadow had bad equipment coverage, so they kind of ignored the fact that he existed, and people didn't understand at that time how powerful instant cast really was. It just increases your damage output by shoulder lengths. Or is that even a freaking word? I don't know. I make up shit a lot. And I've been talking a while, so I'm probably going to be making up more shit as I go. But just let me tell you that this was good back in the day. It was the best physical DPS we had. And it's interesting to see that he's reclaimed his throne. Alright, that is the end, so let's get to the comments and conclusions. Ice is one of those elements where you have to gamble a bit if you want to end up a solid team. There is not one single banner, with the exception of the Ice Thunder Magicite Vessel banner, which has more than three notable Ice relics on it. Well, that isn't that true anymore because of that new Final Fantasy VIII banner that came out. However, that is well after Magicite comes out. So if you want to start working on your Magicite immediately, it wouldn't make all that much sense. I guess it would, because you could use your Magicite Keystones on other stuff while you waited for that banner. So that's an option if you'd like to go for it. That said, while the quantity is a bit on the low side, the quality is generally very high. Squalls, Adias, Ayames, Vivis, Renoas, Celeste, and potentially Lulu's Burst Soul Breaks are all good. All 3 Ice OSBs are good, and the Ice Chain is one of the easiest to ramp up. The best single banner, in my opinion, is Pure Love. No surprise, Pure Love guided by Shooting Stars 2, with the first banner of that event being a close runner-up. And Shadow Lord Awakens 2, Ayame's banner, We Are All Bed 1, Riku's USB banner, and Small Spark Great Resolve 1 being the Steiner VV banner, running at the top Ice banners. Ice Elemental Damage is extremely rare bonus from equipment. It only has 16 relics in the entire game, providing it without requiring synergy. Of those, 6 are 4-star or lower weapons. Another 5 are outdated weapons that we'll never see again. One is one of those Lulu dolls, which basically she can only use her and Tyro. And a mere 2 are pieces of armor. Lulu's BSB and Snow's BSB 1. The only modern, all-round, widely equipable plus ice weapon is Rain's BSB, which is naturally weighted towards magic. And by modern, he means that we can't draw for it anymore on a static banner, but lucky banners is probably the only place we can. It can be a real struggle to find plus ice gear, so if you already have some cherish them. Well, we all make mistakes. I forgive you. If you already have some, cherish them. If you don't, you may want to give a little more weight to banners in which they appear. Whew. All right. So if you already have some, cherish them. Okay, that actually does make sense. It just got dyslexic in my mind as I was reading it. Any comments or questions on the Ice Magicite? And where best to focus your efforts in acquiring Ice Relics? I am in total agreement with the Pure Love banner being one of the best Magicite banners that we have available to us. Top three. Just because just about everything on it is strong for Magicite. As well as being strong elsewhere as well.